Welcome to the Real Academy, brought to you each Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by
the Resilience DoctHers,
Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, best-selling authors, consultants, and speakers of Create and Educate LLC. Create and Educate LLC is an educational consultant and literary firm that provides professional development to schools and community. Their goal is to transform organizations with the REALL resilient framework used to increase their school report card grades 2 and 3 grade levels in 1 year. REALL stands for Respect, Excellence, Accountability, Literacy, and Leadership. This framework is used to coach leaders and teachers and build student efficacy while putting systems in place that aligns the work of the school improvement, making the process manageable. When the work is manageable, teachers and leaders don't stress out or burn out.
The Resilience DoctHers.
Alignment systems are designed to help schools evolve and grow, all while instituting protocols and processes designed to promote collaboration and collegiality. The implementation of the alignment framework prevents some of the most common problems in education, where leaders sometimes aren't sure where to start, or in our new age of educating, leaders need a trusted sounding board that allows them to be vulnerable and transparent, preventing loneliness at the top. The framework doesn't just help leaders, but also prevents teachers from burning out from too many initiatives and embracing teachers as they are the experts. Finally, the framework extends to the children, helping them get engaged in school and solving a nationwide problem. Alignment systems are frequently referred to as a key element of success in the improvement process. In the sport of rowing, all rowers must put their oars in the water, succinctly creating a system for their boat to reach maximum speed. So schools that want to improve are bringing in
the Resilience DoctHers
to teach them all about the alignment systems that must be in place for school improvement to be accomplished at high levels. The dynamic duo provides insights into educational topics through their international platform, which includes educators, parents, and community members as a way to support important entities that make communities thrive. This is their way to pay it forward and provide the support they needed through their platform. Take a look. People who work with
the Resilience
describe them as an
DoctHers.
excellent and inspiring group of leaders. They get into the weeds of work with leaders through their TrustMate Institute that you should contact them about today by filling out the contact form on their website.
It's Super Saturday, everyone. Welcome to episode 244 of the Real Academy, brought to you by Create and Educate with your very own Resilience DoctHers. I'm Dr. Sheikah Houston.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm Dr. Tammy Taylor, and we are excited to continue the work with you that has focused on building systems that are actually going to stick.
Absolutely. And if this is your first time tuning in, you may be wondering, well, who are the Resilience DoctHers?
And we are very glad that you're asking. We are best-selling authors, children's book authors, award-winning educators, and speakers who transformed our schools after improving our report card ratings 2 and 3 levels in just a single year.
Absolutely. And we did that both with our amazing staff members. And after we improved our schools 2 and 3 grade levels in 1 year, of course, people started to ask, what did you do? What have you done differently? And that led to the development and the work around our REALL framework that you see over both of our shoulders and at the top of the pane. That acronym REALL stands for Respect, Excellence, Accountability, Literacy, and Leadership. And as senior staff developers for Create and Educate, we know that school transformation is needed In many areas, our framework will help you not only plan that work, but it will also help you to align to the school improvement strategies that have made schools that were 90% African American, 90% poverty or free and reduced lunch be at least at 90% proficient or more. So, this work is great for leadership retreats. Every episode that we do of the Real Academy has a discussion prompt in our leadership discussion guide. And the Real Academy is great for staff culture conversations, system rollout planning, and also teacher engagement strategies. And don't forget, we are also children's book authors. So if you need someone and you haven't picked up your copy of Amir's Awakening yet, please make sure that you pick it up today and bring us in to talk to your students about Real Resilience. That is our authors talk that we do with children.
Absolutely. And if you can't bring us in, just keep tuning in here to the Real Academy on Saturday mornings, where we have impacted over 300,000 educators and about 7 million students, all through free Fantastic Four PD. We start off each Saturday morning, which is deemed as Super Saturday by Principal Kafele at 10 a.m. with Principal Sean Hurd. And then we follow in the Real Academy at 10:30. At 11 a.m., we are followed by the leader's mentor and the GOAT of all things education and leadership with AP and the new Principals Academy with Principal Kafele. And then on Sunday, we round out with our PGP podcast partners, Dr. Marty Moreno and Principal Josh Tovar.
Absolutely. So please like, share, subscribe, send the stars, do all of the things that the platforms do, make the comments. We say please and thank you because we always need help building these algorithms. And normally, if we were live, we would definitely do our Real Fam shout outs, but we are truly thankful for each and every one of you being here. You're intentional about being here on Saturday, and we are also intentional about making sure that you have some content to take back to your staff members or just for your own knowledge. So we appreciate you every Saturday and for everything that you do. We just have a few announcements. Just check out the last episode of Parents Are First Teachers. Principal Hurt is joined me, and so we added a different twist to it with the father's perspective. So that is a good episode. And also check out the Elizabeth Nelson Wellness and Weight Loss. That's an initiative my sister and I are working on. I'm down 12 pounds. So the system that we're using, it is working. And if you need help in that area, please let us know. We're here to help. And also shout out to the Chester Downtown Development Association on yesterday and Workability. We lit it up blue for autism in the city of Chester yesterday on Main Street. Next Saturday, there will also be another event coming for Live After 5. So stay tuned for those details as well. So that brings us to our episode for today, episode 244, building staff buy-in so systems actually work. And so we've spent the last several episodes building and talking about those systems and sustaining the work. But there's one thing that determines whether systems actually work, and that is people. And we always say we are in the people business before we are in any other business.
That's for sure. And before I comment, I do want one shout out to the Workforce Development Group of Chester County. They did a wonderful workforce job fair on Thursday, and it was amazing to see so many people from the community out and so many businesses that are trying to support the development of what's happening in Chester. So we encourage you to, if you were not able to get there, try to stop by and get with those folks, because there are lots of opportunities for people to get not just involved with what's going on in the community, but to be employed so that we are able to make the difference that we want to see in this great community that we have access to. But back to people, because when we're talking about systems and we're talking about making systems work, you can have the best systems in the world, you can have the best plans, the best structures, but if your staff does not believe in what you're doing, they will not last. Your systems will fail. So let's start there. There is a huge difference between compliance and commitment. And that's not just with children. We talk about that all the time. You go into a classroom and you see that the kids are compliant, they're quiet, and they are just as disengaged as they can be. But there is no commitment to the work. But that is also applicable to adults in our lives. And when we are not able to commit, you can see that sometimes they are compliant, and that sounds like I'm gonna do it because I have to do it. But when you find a committed person, you hear them saying things like, I'm doing this because I believe in this work. And you'll never believe, and I'm sure Sheikah has many testimonies as well. There have been some dark days during the principalship when we were coming from a very, very, very low place, and the work was not easy, but you would hear the staff say things. And that's why she talks about this being something that we could not have done without our, she calls them dynamic, and that's for sure exactly what they were. We couldn't have done it without them, because I would have them say, this is tremendous work, but we believe in what we're doing. We believe in what you're doing. That's what commitment sounds like.
Absolutely, Tammy. And too many schools are operating in compliance mode. And that was a good feeling to hear when people would say they were committed to the work, they believed in the work, because that made it even that much more meaningful. So the goal is not just implementation, it's to make sure that everyone is taking ownership. And that ownership we saw not just with our staff members, as Tammy talked about, but our students own the work. And that is the beauty of the framework that makes sure that everyone is touched and is included and understands their part. So now we're moving on to something that a lot of people experience, not just in schools, but everywhere. Sometimes you get some people that are not saying they happy about the work, and you're going to get some pushback. And this is normal. Pushback is data. So when staff members push back, leaders often see it as resistance. A lot of people, they don't like resistance. They feel like it's creating conflict, but pushback actually gives you data, and it tells you sometimes that maybe the message was unclear. Maybe there was something that was inconsistent, or there may be something within the relationship or within the school where that trust has not been built yet. And that's why it's so important not to just make blanket statements in your staff meetings. There's certain things that are a one-on-one conversation. There's certain things that it's going to take you more time to get to these people that are resistant, maybe one-on-one, maybe later as a group. But when you address something like that with the entire staff, those people who was talking, like Tammy said, and say, hey, we believe in this work, what you do to them is bring their morale down, because they're thinking, well, what in the world? She hadn't seen all of this work I'm doing. She hadn't seen me believe in the work. I'm believing in the work, but her message is talking only to the pushback people. And that's why it's important for you not to be cowardice in your leadership and know how to have crucial conversations.
Yes, and I love that you brought up that point about making sure that you're not just making blanketed statements, because it is cowardice. And what most people are doing, even though, and I don't know, I think it's just the nature of people, even though you know it's not you, lots
Hmm.
of people are looking around thinking, or is what did I do that made her think that I'm not with her anymore? What is happening? And that's unnecessary for that workspace, because most of us don't have time
Hmm.
for the buffoonery, is what I called it at my school. We don't have time for us to spin our wheels with not addressing directly what we feel like the issues are. And I think when it comes to people who resist, I think that you're correct, Shika. It is data, and we should use that data to inform the practices that we have in place or are putting in place. Instead of us asking, why are they resisting? We could ask, well, what's the system not communicating clearly? Because if you have a good system and you know that you're doing what's right for children, then maybe your come across is not quite there. Or maybe your messaging needs some work. So you have to really take some time to dissect what is happening, because people don't buy into what they don't understand. Staff need clarity on what we're doing. They need to understand why we're doing it. They need to understand how it's going to help the kids. And they need to understand what it looks like in practice. You should not be offended by that. These are things that should be a part of the rollout of the plan. And when somebody comes to you and says, I don't understand what this is supposed to look like, you as a leader need to be able to go in and show them what your vision for this does look like. And if you can't pull that off, you need to get a coach. You need somebody that can help you to demonstrate or model for them exactly what this looks like if they don't know.
You're exactly spot on, Tammy. And I used to be one of those people that's sitting in the meeting looking around when I knew I was doing what I was supposed to do. Everybody's not as outspoken as me, because I would go up to my leader and say, well, I know this wasn't for me because I'm doing XYZ. I'm assuming you was talking to everybody else, but everyone is not that upfront and would it felt comfortable enough or would feel comfortable enough to go to their leader to say that. So when clarity increases, resistance absolutely decreases. And then we're going to align our framework to staff buy-in so that you can see what that alignment looks like. I'm just going to change the banner. There we go. So now we're going to keep it real with respect. What does that look like? So this means that the staff feels that they are heard and valued. So you have to open up space where the staff is able to express opinions about what is going on or about the vision. I would do that every year in my vision meeting. We would go through every one of the procedures for the school, and they would say, give your input. Let's tear it down. Let's build it up. We're going to do it together. Everyone had voice. My key thing to that was, once we decide on this is it. We can go back and have some dialogue if something's not working. But my thing was, if we decide this as a group, we're not going to have outliers that say, oh, well, I'm going to just do my own thing. That was not going to happen. I was making sure everybody was held accountable to what we decided. So, excellence, you have to make sure there are clear expectations for quality work. We talked about this in a previous episode where Tammy came up with her instructional manual. I did the same thing, modeling after her manual. Everyone knew what quality work looked like in our buildings. Accountability. We were not cowardice leaders. We made sure that people were consistent and we had follow through. We had the right systems in place where we weren't pulling our hair out trying to follow through a bunch of different things. There was clear set work that we were doing with the correct systems in place so we could monitor the work. It wasn't overloaded for people. Literacy, this means that there's an understanding of the work and that it just doesn't fall on the person who we have deemed as the reading and the English language arts teacher at the school. Literacy was a school-wide initiative. I had a reading group. Tammy had a reading group. The parents also were given information about literacy to make sure that those messages were even trending home. And then lastly, leadership. Leaders model and reinforce the systems. I just gave you an example of us having our own reading group where we were modeling what we wanted to see in practice.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note when you are a by any means necessary administrator, a group is not beneath you.
Mhm.
You are in there with your sleeves rolled up, doing what needs to be done. You're not forsaking the other things that are part of your administrative responsibility. We took those things very seriously. And it is evidenced by the successes we were able to experience. However, it was nothing for me to go into a classroom, and I've done this many times. I'm in an observation, I'm observing a teacher who just is absolutely not on point with what's being taught. We're getting close to test time. You know what? I've gotten up from the observation, paused observation. I'm not the observation anymore. Guess who I am? I'm the math teacher, and I'm the fifth grade math teacher who's making sure I'm correcting this misinformation that these children are receiving because we do not have time to waste. Now, let me tell you about how that happens, though. You don't do that without a relationship with a teacher
Exactly.
because in a normal situation where there is a good, strong, solid relationship and the teachers trust the administrator, you know what the teacher did? She stepped aside and learned from me where she was struggling at the moment and thanked me at the end. She didn't fall to pieces and start crying and say, "Oh, Dr. Taylor is coming here and took over the lesson." Nobody in that school building knew that happened except the
Mhm.
two of us and the children in that classroom. But because it wasn't an unusual thing, nobody even ever spoke of that. That's the kind of culture that has to be bred in the building so that everybody in that building knows that as an administrator, you'll do whatever it takes to make sure that these children are able to be successful. And when staff start experiencing things a real way, they start believing in the work that you're doing. Trust is only built when leaders are consistent, when they're clear, when they're present, and when they are supportive. And what that teacher felt from me was support.
Absolutely, Tammy, because buy-in doesn't happen through one meeting. It happens through consistent leadership and the leadership's actions over time. So we have to ask ourselves, are we asking for buy-in? Commitment is definitely better than buy-in, but are we asking for it or are we building it?
Because buy-in is not something you demand, it's something you earn through clarity, through consistency, and through trust.
Absolutely. So we thank you for joining us for episode 244 of the Real Academy. Please join Principal Kafele next in the AP and New Principals Academy. Also join Josh and Dr. Mari Moreno in the PGP podcast on Sensational Sunday. And then join us right back here on Super Saturday, starting off with Principal Sean Hurt at 10 a.m. Yours truly, Create and Educate at 10:30, and the Leaders Mentor and the GOAT at 11 a.m. Principal Kafele in the AP and New Principals Academy. We hope that you all have a real amazing Super Saturday.
Yes, we're very excited to continue the journey with you as we continue to help build systems that people believe in and that you are able to sustain. Remember that we are your Resilience DoctHers, helping you create and educate so that you can thrive.